Hello everyone, I'm Grainwolf. Today we're going to talk about something really exciting, the Jebel Irhoud skulls. These are ancient human bones that changed what scientists thought about when and where our species began. For a long time, people believed that Homo sapiens, that's us, first appeared in East Africa about 200,000 years ago. This idea came from fossils, like the ones found in Homo and Rewrote, which were about 160,000 years old. But in 1960, something surprising happened. While people were mining in Morocco, they found old human bones. By 1969, scientists had found 6 fossils there, 2 almost complete adult skulls, the jaw of a child about 8 years old, an arm bone, part of a hip bone, and pieces of other bones from the head and body. These discoveries showed that our species is much older than we thought, by about 100,000 years. Another set of excavations at the site in the early 2000s uncovered a further 2 adult fossils, an adult skull and an adult's mandible. These discoveries brought the total number of Homo sapiens discovered at Jebel Irhoud to 7. Not only had this site, which had once been a shallow cave in a limestone outcrop, provided a fantastically detailed sample of ancient human fossils, but in doing so changed everything we had known about our species' origin. In 2017, the results from dating techniques performed on the fossils and flint tools found with them were published, pushing the Homo sapiens species back to a date range of approximately 280,000 to 350,000 years ago. We had discovered our oldest ancestors to date and presented a new evolutionary model for our species. Rather than a singular point of origin, it became possible and even probable that human populations from across the African continent had contributed to the development of our species. These 7 ancient people changed our understanding of ourselves, but also gave us a list of new questions to seek answers to. So, who were they? You'll have noticed, no doubt, that the skulls I'm showing you in this video differ in some ways from what you'd expect from a modern human. More often than not, a Homo sapiens skull would be described as gracile, soft-featured, and an overall globular shape. Our faces are relatively flat in comparison to other human species such as Homo erectus or Neanderthals. This description doesn't quite fit the skulls found at Jebel Irhoud. However, they do share a short, flatter face morphology, but overall the faces of the recovered individuals seem to share a mixture of traits we would consider modern and archaic. Some seem to have far more ancient shapes to their jaws, whereas others, such as Irhoud 11, have a quite modern-like chin. They still exhibit clear, impressive brow ridges, which sat over the eye sockets, and the shape is far longer than ours, sharing far more in common with those of Neanderthals and Homo heidelbergensis than the rounded skulls of his modern humans. The mixture of these features places them truly at a transitional point in our evolutionary journey. But what does this elongated skull shape tell us about their minds? The rounded globular skulls of modern humans are a hallmark of our species, an evolutionary development driven by expanded parietal and frontal lobes, regions of the brain tied to complex language, problem-solving, and social bonds. The Jebel Irhoud skulls with their longer lower brain cases suggest these areas perhaps weren't as pronounced, more akin to their archaic cousins. Does this mean they thought differently? It's hard to say. Their brains were roughly similar in size to ours, or even Neanderthals at around 200 to 400 cm and were complex enough to support a sophisticated lifestyle. At the site, a collection of knapped and prepared flint tools was discovered in the Sapiens context as the human remains. As a sort of further proof of the intelligence our ancient ancestors had, there's a possibility that the flint used had been purposefully heat-treated before being knapped. Heating flint in fire alters the material's crystalline structure, which improves its stability when being knapped, removing a level of brittleness which allows for sharper and more precise blades. This process is seen in later sites in Africa, namely Pinnacle Point, which has evidence of this dating to 70,000 years ago. The tools at Jebel Irhoud were crafted using the Rewrote technique, a method requiring careful preparation of a flint core to produce sharp, precise flakes for specific tasks. Imagine these early Homo sapiens sitting around a fire envisioning the tools they needed before striking the stone just right. This mastery of fire and stone reveals a mind capable of planning and innovation. But were they alone in this skill? Far from it. Across Europe, Neanderthals were crafting similar Rewrote tools, as were other early Homo sapiens across Africa. Even their probable ancestors, Homo heidelbergensis, used this technique in places like Zambia, not far from Jebel Irhoud's time. What we do know is that their tools helped to place them in a shared human story. At this ancient date, while displaying so many features that we can begin to recognize as us, so many more factors about these 7 individuals relate us back to our even more ancient cousins and our shared ancestry. For our ancestors in Morocco 300,000 years ago, that shared ancestry wasn't such a distant memory. In fact, as I mentioned earlier, they were just one species of human alive at the time. In Africa alone, they and other early Homo sapiens groups would have shared their landscapes with populations of Homo heidelbergensis. These robust cousins, largely accepted as the common ancestor to our Jebel Irhoud people and Neanderthals, their heavy brow ridges and projecting faces were built for survival in Africa's savannahs and woodlands. Fossils like Broken Hill in Zambia, dated to around 300,000 years ago, show skulls not unlike those of our Moroccan ancestors, but with thicker bones and larger jaws. They hunted antelopes and other game with early prepared core tools that paved the way for the lavoir flakes found in that Moroccan cave, suggesting lives of strength and strategy in tight-knit groups. Could these ancestors have met their Homo sapiens kin trading skills or stories across ancient trails? It's a tantalizing thought, though the evidence remains silent. Across the Mediterranean, early Neanderthals thrived in Europe's colder forests and steppes, their stocky frames and broad noses built for harsh climates. Armed with powerful brains, sometimes larger than ours, up to 1,750 centimeters, they hunted deer, bison, and even mammoths with levelo tools and wooden spears, warming themselves by fires that echoed those at Jebel Irhoud. Traces of pigments and possible carvings hint at early sparks of ritual or art, a possible glimpse of their complex minds. In Asia, the enigmatic Denisovans roamed from Siberian caves to Tibetan highlands and possibly China's coasts. Known from sparse fossils, a jaw, a few teeth, and thanks to a 2025 study led by Kafu, a nearly complete skull from Harbin, China. Their robust features, large murs, and brains rivaling ours reveal a resilient people. They crafted tools much like the Lavala flakes of Jebel Irhoud, thriving across diverse landscapes. Theirs was a world alive with human diversity, each group carving out an existence in their own corner of the globe, yet woven together by a shared past. This idea that we weren't alone here on this planet is quite hard to grasp with our modern understanding of the world. We've been alone so long that it's a struggle to comprehend the concept of, oh, they're humans. But once upon a time, the world was covered with a number of diverse human stories being lived out by people who looked like us, and some who were a little different, but still very human. For our tribe in Morocco 300,000 years ago, life would have followed the rhythms of the natural world. The area in which they were rediscovered, a limestone cave overlooking a savanna grassland, may have served as a camp for the group. Within the space, they had been butchering gazelles which they had hunted. A large portion of these gazelle bones show evidence of cut and scrape marks left by flint tools roving the flesh from bone, as well as clear breaks where they had extracted the marrow. Wildebeest, zebra, and antelope are also shown in this record of butchery, as well as fragments of tortoises and ostrich eggs. We can also say with a high degree of certainty that the family were cooking their food in this cave, and evidence of this can still be seen on fire-scarred bones and flint tools. It's quite easy to imagine an evening scene with this small group. 7 people sitting and resting in their shelter after a hard day, food from the day's hunt cooking with the scent of their dinner drifting through the air. In front of them, the grassland plain would have shown a golden yellow as the sun set, the few scattered trees casting long shadows. They probably took this time to relax and rest, but they'd have had to have been alert while cooking and butchering their prey. Hyenas had long been our species' arch nemesis, and these scavengers would have proven to be hard competition for our early ancestors. It's possible that they had defended themselves from hyena at the site in the past, as bones from these beasts were discovered during excavations. No one knows for sure what happened at the Jebel Irhoud cave to cause all 7 of these ancient people to become fossilized in the same place. Some suggest they were purposefully placed within the limestone cave in a burial ceremony by their loved ones. Another theory, which is the one I personally believe, is that the scene covered in the 1960s was preserved due to the limestone cave collapsing on top of it. The type of limestone around the Jebel Irhoud site is known for being brittle, and it is entirely plausible that the unstable nature of the rock unfortunately led to the fate of 7 ancient humans who found their lives suddenly ended in a cave collapse. However, they ended up in that ancient cave. Be it by purposeful burial or sudden freak accident, the rock that encased them has given us a snapshot of our earliest ancestors. The discovery of this small group has widened our knowledge of an era of our history which is so clouded in mystery. Thanks to them, we know what they ate, that they shared a technological continuity with other ancient humans, and we are given the opportunity to look at the faces of some of the earliest Homo sapiens to ever walk this planet. This site has sat with me for a while, and I don't think it's as well known as it should be. The question, where did we come from, is such a profound one, and a subject we can't easily answer. However, thanks to the Jebel Irhoud family, we are provided with another piece of that complex puzzle. They lived alongside other human species at the beginning of a 300,000-year journey, one that ends with their descendants as the last surviving of their kind, us. I hope you found this video interesting. Ancient history is a real passion for me, and I thoroughly enjoy researching these subjects. If you did enjoy and want to see more, please consider subscribing and leaving a like. If you're after more prehistory, please consider heading over to my Instagram where I post daily. I also have a Patreon where I upload exclusive articles and video content. Both are linked in the description. I've been Grainwolf, and thank you for watching.